All right, so inflation is sending commodities soaring, or at least the fear of inflation. And to top that up, we have this whole renewable electric vehicle movement that's just beginning. And truth be told, I did make a mistake in my investing, which was I was only focused on silver and I was only focused on uranium, which both panned out quite well, but I did miss specifically copper, and I didn't want to start chasing it. It really took off since April 2020, and now we've seen a bit of a correction in general equities, but especially in cyclicals, and we've seen that coincide with the rise in the treasury yields. And so it looks like a perfect time to be repositioning myself and getting ready in copper, which, heck, these commodities are probably headed into the greatest bull market in history, and copper is certainly leading the way on the inflation trade. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my investment thesis for copper, electric vehicle battery metals, and this whole inflationary trade. Just to be clear, I am speaking about a company I am an investor in, and that is Phoenix Gold Resources. So disclosure, I own this stock and they are sponsoring this video. Now, let's dive right into the incredible opportunities and what might be the greatest commodities bull market in history. So make sure you hit the like button on this side, right over there, this side, right over there. Give us your copper price prediction in the comments right there down below. And of course, make sure you do your own due diligence. Okay, so like I said, I missed the boat on copper back in April or so of 2020. And I did not get properly positioned. But due to the inflationary fears and the prolonged deficits basically in all commodities, but you're seeing it a lot in copper as well, it's caused copper to absolutely take off to a near record high. This has a huge impact because it's such an important industrial metal, but also on this whole electric vehicle and renewable craze that I'm going to be diving a lot into in this video, because there's some truly fascinating information on the supply and demand fundamentals as it pertains to copper. And so this chart right here is just a quick chart of copper surge. Prices are closing in on a record high, and they have basically doubled in a span of less than about a year. Okay, so in this chart right here, I think it's important to note that, of course, there's the inflationary type of trade, but what's really fascinating and what has also fascinated me with uranium and with silver is the incredible amount of increased demand that is going to be really needed as the economy and as the move in industry shifts more towards electric vehicles. So on this chart here, you can see very clearly that the industrial demand, the commercial demand, the consumer demand, the transportation demand, the infrastructure demand, the building demands, they're all going drastically up for copper. So as you can see here, starting at 2020, going just only out to about 2050, especially if you go all the way out to 2100, you are seeing a huge demand in copper going off of the roof. You're talking about close to, from 2020 up until 2100, you are talking about basically well over a 3x demand in the amount of copper, which, like all commodities, has not been mined very much over the last 10 years of this tech boom. Okay, so to meet the electric vehicle demand, it's said that we're going to have about 5 million new charging ports for electric vehicles over the next decade. And of course, copper is an essential material for electric vehicles, for batteries, for inverters, for wiring. And guess what? There is not enough of it. So there's around 5x more copper in an electric vehicle than in traditional gas vehicles. So supply deficits might only be really steepened by a demand curve that's growing exponentially. So 30 million electric vehicles are expected to be produced in 2030. So an additional 2 million tons of copper per year will be required by that time. This doesn't even include the copper that will be needed for new charging ports and infrastructure, which will increase the overall demand by about 12 to 15%. So what you're looking at right here is a very clear graph that's illustrating the copper content by vehicle. And as you can see, there is a huge amount of copper that is going into these electric vehicles, 183 pounds approximately per electric vehicle. So the next big idea in the copper investment thesis and the copper junior mining stock investment thesis as it pertains to Phoenix Gold Resources and the plethora of other available copper stocks is quite simply China, right? And this is a common thread between everything. China is a common thread between all commodities. China is very intelligent. China looks very far into the future. They're aware of the copper shortages. They're aware of other shortages in other commodities. Uranium, it's estimated that China alone by 2040 is going to be using the amount of uranium that is mined per year right now, 120 million pounds per year. China is going to use all of that by 2040. And so again, China becomes a central theme into the copper play. So I'm going to pop this graph up and explain it to you. So the world's biggest copper consumer is China. So the research firm Canalys recently concluded that a record 1.3 million electric vehicles were sold in China in 2020. 1.3 million. So they forecast that 1.9 million electric vehicles will be sold in China in 2021. So this is signifying year-over-year growth of 51%, and it's a 9% share of all the cars sold in China for the year. So by 2022, it's forecasted that an annual copper consumption will reach a whopping 13.65 million tons in China alone. So you can see here on the graph, this is an incredible increase. Just look at the start of this graph at 2018, only going to 2025. There is going to be a huge bull market in copper. So the other thing that I like about copper and some of the other industrial commodities is that there's a lot less politics than you'll find sometimes in precious metals. And so you get a lot more straight shooting, and it's a lot easier to be able to predict the amount of usage. And of course, it's very easy to be able to tell how much is mined versus produced. And so what happens is I think you get a lot more accurate forecasts from some of the major players. So Citibank, for instance, is bracing for global copper markets to shift into a deficit in the second half of this year in 2020 alone. Furthermore, Goldman Sachs is saying that they are predicting a soon coming deficit of 327,000 metric tons of copper. So all of that being so, we are seeing Goldman Sachs saying just in their next 12-month target, they are anticipating copper moving above $10,500, which would be a new record high. So if you follow this channel, then of course you know we talk a lot about macroeconomics, we talk a lot about the inflation trade, we talk a lot about precious metals and how I personally believe they're going to be some of the greatest places to invest and park your money, especially precious metals mining stocks over the next while. And so with Phoenix Gold Resources, one of the things that really caught my attention is that in Nevada, in the United States, they have a actual joint venture with the #1 gold company in the world, the largest gold producer, which is Newmont, a 50-50 split on one of their properties, which is a gold asset out in Nevada. But what really caught my attention, because at that point it's just, hey, you know, it's a small gold stock that probably has a great level of potential. But what really caught my interest was when they acquired one of the highest grade commodities, and really encompasses everything from zinc, it's got silver, but most specifically one of the highest grade copper in all of Newfoundland. So additionally, right now they are about 20% from their all-time highs, and it's a stock that, of course, like the majority of these commodity stocks and these cyclicals right now, are starting to see a little bit of a sell-off, which presents an interesting opportunity for us as investors. So next, sentiment is great. Now, this may sound like a funny thing, but this is something that I actually do on any stock that I'm really starting to do more and more research in, is first I go into Google search and then I go into Twitter search. And I actually type in the ticker symbols of the company, and I go out and I look at what people are saying, people that love the stocks, people that hate the stocks, and I just like to get an idea of the overall sentiment that's out there. Okay, so this first one says that PXA, which is Phoenix Gold Resources, has one of the highest grades I have ever seen for a junior. And then this one says some of the best grades in this copper asset, running as high as 12%. So he said Newfoundland is hot for gold, copper, and silver, and it looks like Phoenix Gold Resources just got the best copper asset in Newfoundland. Those grades are sick. So all that being so, what people are referring to is that they recently acquired the old York Harbor mine, which is in Newfoundland. And the interesting thing about that, of course, is all of a sudden it's not just a gold stock, right? You see they've got a 50% partnership with Newmont, and you say, hey, look, this is fantastic looking opportunity with a little gold stock. But once you add the copper component and you understand the copper thesis, it starts to get a lot more interesting. So from Stockwatch, I'm going to read what they had to say about the acquisition of that York Harbor resource. So Stockwatch says historical exploration and mining have primarily focused on high-grade mineralized zones for copper and zinc, and this is referring to their York Harbor copper mine. So it says that samples of mined material and surface outcrops that were analyzed returned concentration of copper ranging from 0.5% to 19.7%, zinc ranging from 0.1% to 34%, silver ranging from 3 grams per ton to 108 grams per ton, and gold ranging from 0.01 gram per ton to 0.34 gram per ton. In addition to the high results for copper, zinc, and silver, the analytical results showed noteworthy cobalt concentrations of 0.05% to 0.15%. So last but not least, in reviewing the company presentation for Gold Phoenix Resources, about 50% of all the shares are held within the CEO, the CFO, and close associates. So it's about as tight-knit of a situation as you can possibly seem to get. So all in all, I have to say I'm very excited about the prospects that copper and other commodities outside of just precious metals are presenting right now, especially with some of these little sell-offs and corrections that we are seeing right now in these cyclicals that is coinciding right now with the Treasury move. And so last but not least, just want to thank you for watching this video and want to give a special thanks to our sponsor of this video, which is Phoenix Gold Resources. They are traded in Canada and on the OTC. If you want to check out their presentation or you want to check out some of the other interesting information on the copper investment thesis or other interesting articles from Goldman Sachs about the commodities bull market, you will see the links to all of those in the description right there down below. Make sure that you hit the like button on this side right over there and this side right over there if you found this video interesting, if it got you excited about the commodities bull market. And last but not least, give me a comment right there down below and let me know what is your copper price prediction by the end of this decade.